there's different measures of faith. Okay. And the faith of a priest is, I'm going to show up to the temple today and people are going to bring an offering to the house of the Lord, and I'm going to live off of a portion of that offering. And Mark, as you know, that's very appropriate because that is the faith of a priest. But bro, the faith of a king is, we provided 100,000 jobs last month, fed 100,000 families. How can we feed 200,000 people and provide for 200,000 families with jobs this month? It's not that one faith is better than the other. It's just different measures of faith. And as far as like vocational ministry, you know, the percentage of people who are called to vocational priesthood, to where it is your full-time job and you make a wage from doing that, it's very, very small. Now, I believe all of us are called to be priests, but not all of us. And I would even go as far as saying the vast majority of us are not called to be vocational priests, but to be ministers of the goodness of God, the gospel, the goodness of his presence, the good news of salvation, the good news of everything that is in the gospel, but to do it in the marketplace and to be out there and to, like you said earlier, not just go all in and go hard on being a priest vocationally, but go in and go hard on being a king, man. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I've done the go all in on the priestly ministry. I mean, I've done, you know, as far as vocational ministry, I've been doing that since 2007. So it's like, I've been blessed and I'm extremely thankful for those years, you know, to live off of the generosity of the saints and them believe in what we were doing enough to support us.
Sure.
And to, you know, I'm extremely thankful. But again, I think people can be deceived to think that busyness, opportunities, all of those things equals financial success. Like, you know, it pays the bills, it takes care of things, but there's a lot of things that are hindered in the process, even of providing for your family and actually building wealth and securing future generations doesn't
Absolutely.
happen in the ministry. You know, it's very rare that it happens in the ministry. But this decision for me wasn't so much about just finances. I mean, yes. I mean, we would love to have more resources, but this was also about like wholeness, man. This was about like stepping in, just like you stepping into a word that Yahweh was calling us into, but yet still struggling, thinking that that was like that business or entrepreneurship was like a lesser calling than ministry, like
Yeah,
what we call
100%.
ministry. And
100%.
that whole king priest thing, man, is huge. I was thinking about this. I've been doing a walkthrough in the book of Revelation with a group that we started called Long Path Learning Community, and walking through the book of Revelation and kind of helping people deconstruct the idea that the book of Revelation is an end time prophecy book. Like, it's pretty clear right out the gate, Revelation is the revelation of Jesus Christ. But the first primary revelation that comes out of the book of Revelation concerning our identity is king priest. Like, that's the first thing that he says about us is we are kings and priests. And yet there are so many people, man, I know that have been just like me. They look at the kingly thing and wealth building, wealth creation, entrepreneurship. There's like something negative that the church sowed, especially in the Pentecostal charismatic circles I grew up in, something negative that was sown there that gives us a poor perspective about money and a poor perspective about like ministry as it relates to business and
Well, bro,
wealth creation.
that's the enemy, bro. Like that's the enemy. Cause like, again, I tell my students all the time, you hear me say this all the time. If you were the enemy, would you rather have God's people have money or your people have money? Which one? Right. And the answer to that question is obvious. Like, if you're the enemy, you want your people to have money. So guess what you're going to do? You're going to do what he's always done. Did God really say, right? It began in the garden, bro. He's going to twist words like, you know, the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. The enemy is going to come in and just get the church tricked to think money is evil. Right. You know, it's interesting. I'd put out a tweet about this a few months ago. And, you know, I don't know if a lot of religious church people liked it so much, but it's interesting to me that church people on one hand. And by the way, before I go any further, I love church people. I am a church people. I've served
Yeah,
God's
right.
people. I've served God's people with my whole heart for decades. And so I'm speaking not to, but from. And in that context, I just want to say, I think it's so interesting that we, as God's people, out of one side of our mouth, we say things like, money's bad. If you have a lot of money, you're greedy or evil. But at the other side of our mouth, Mark, we're also saying, but would y'all sow a seed because we have the building fund coming up and we're trying to build these orphanages. It's like, which one, man? Do you want me to go out and to create wealth, or do you want me to, sow a seed? Like, is wealth good or is wealth bad? Also out of one side of our mouths, we're going, let's take the 7 mountains, for the glory of God. Let's go into education and business and media. But the second somebody actually goes, okay, well, like in my case, for instance, okay, well, guys, I've been in the church mountain. I'm actually going to step on the business mountain. Oh man, we're praying for Rick Pino's salvation. My God, he's backslid. He's probably going straight to hell. He's all about the money. He serves mammon. It's like, guys, which one? Like, and Mark, I just want to say this, and I think it's really critical for your audience to hear what I'm about to say. I think one of the primary reasons why God's people struggle financially is because we have conflicting internal beliefs around the subject of money. For instance, if you go up to most church people and you say, hey, do you believe that God wants you to have wisdom? I think, Mark, it'd be safe to say probably 100% of God's people are going to go, absolutely, I believe God wants me to be wise. But bro, Proverbs chapter 8 says that with wisdom comes wealth, abundance, enduring riches, prosperity. So it's like, okay, on one hand, you believe part of what God says, but on the other, you don't believe the other part. Like, I believe
True.
that God wants us to prosper.
True.
People ask us all the time, like, hey, Rick, are you part of that prosperity gospel now? Well, bro, I'm not part of the poverty gospel. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
The enemy
Right.
comes to steal, kill, and destroy, right?
Yeah.
It's not that I'm all about the money. It's that I'm all about what God said is for us. And he said, man, I call you blessed in the city, blessed in the field, blessed when you come, blessed when you go. He's called us to be the head and not the tail, not this perverted message of, past TV preachers from old. I'm talking about real truth, real potential, man. Somebody was asking me the other day, like, Rick, I just feel like you're chasing the money. I said, bro, I'm not chasing money. I'm chasing God-given potential. Mark, it's my conviction that if we can be who God has called us to be, then we can do what God has called us to do.
Right.
And if we become who God called us to be, if we do what God called us to do, then bro, we can have what God called us to have.
True.